This is an Awakening Zone presentation, Human Empowerment Radio and Media for the 21st Century and Beyond.
Welcome to New Potentials. I'm David McMaster, your host, and it is my deepest pleasure to welcome you to our global and multi-dimensional broadcast on the Awakening Zone. New Potentials is a new energy community gathering place to explore the greatest shift ever in human consciousness, a vehicle to share how the shift has hit the fan and how we as conscious creators are choosing to create heaven on earth and the new earth. New Potentials is a safe place to experience and to feel how a human can be divine and human at the same time, to feel the I am that I am God also. New Potentials is a new energy community where the sum is greater than all the parts. And everybody, every individual can tap into the greater sum. More potentials are created than potentials we could create on our own. To quote the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change we seek. Yes, we can. And to add my postscript to the President's quote, yes, we are. So let me invite all who are joining us in this sacred now moment to start our celebration with some conscious breathing into our body of consciousness, the all of who we really are, our physical body, our mind, our spirit, our Nost, the human and divine integrated together, the I am, the totality of who we really are, into our presence. Let's take that conscious, deep breath that says, yes, I do choose to be here now. And to allow ourselves to feel, dear listeners, if you so choose. For truly, it's more than just oxygen we're breathing, but spirit energy. So thank you, dear listeners. And my very special guest today is coming back. It's Veronica Torres of Sonoma, California. And as many of you are aware, Veronica is absolutely an incredible channel for the Elohim and the Council. And the Council's focus is to help us transition from a fear-based Homo sapiens to a consciousness-based Homo spiritus. So, Veronica, are you there, my dear?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had forgotten how altered your intro makes me. I'm just listening to you, and I get all real spacey, and this kind of calm comes over me, and I'm like, I need to pay attention. Pay attention, Veronica. But I get all, woo-hoo. You have that kind of voice that just gives, you need to make some meditation tapes.
Well, and thank you for that. And actually, I have spent, probably a few decades in meditation, and now I choose to have my walking meditation and, really being present in my life.
Nice. I like that a lot.
Yeah, but that was a large part of my past, so it helped me to bring me to this point in time. And I think probably, you also, as well as all of our listeners, we've had really a plethora of life experiences that have really brought us to this, magical point of time. And actually part of that magical point of time is like your recent book that you have, what will happen in 2012 and beyond, by the Elohim and the Council, and of course channeled by you. And if you would, Veronica, maybe just kind of touch on why there seems to be so much fear about 2012 as you discuss in your book?
Yeah, I think what happened is that 2012, for so many years, decades really, in the lightworker community, 2012 has been this big thing. And then, of course, there's been movies made and lots of stuff that's used that tension of what's going to happen to cause a lot of different emotions. And Elohim has explained that whether or not anything happens on December 21st, 2012, different than the day before, doesn't matter. That we can use the fact that there's an energetic around the potential of change to actually help us facilitate change. They say, December 25th is an important day because we decided it is, right? We said that's the day that we're going to celebrate Christmas, and everybody went, okay, that's the day. So every year when December 25th comes around, activities happen and people act certain ways and have certain experiences. So they're like, whether or not the 2012 thing is going to be a huge spiritual transformation or not, there's a upswelling of attention and energetic that in the lightworker community that you can use. You can ride that wave and that, in a sense, kind of like a deadline. Not in a negative way of a deadline, but like, wow, if something might happen, I'm going to feel more inclined to be more conscious or more inclined to be prepared or more inclined to pay more attention or make those changes in my life that I've been hesitant to make because I have a sense that it might really matter. And, of course, it's the changes we make day to day and the conscious choices we make moment by moment that really create the transformation. And December 21st just sits out there as a date that helps us maybe pay more attention in the meantime.
Very good. And actually, in the back of your book, I really kind of like that. Leave fear behind and use the energy of 2012 to facilitate your personal growth. Yeah. 2012 is a new beginning. And we're actually in that energy right now. Yeah. And some people are holding their breath until 2012. Mm-hmm. And frankly, it's my sense that on the following day they probably won't notice any difference than the day before. And although they may, be disappointed and hoping for something miraculous change, when the change is already happening, in their life. If they moment by
moment, David. It's moment by moment. I was working with some of the information that I had from 2009. I'm doing some books about some of the beginning information we have when we first were forming the council, and one of the transcripts is all about there's no big answer. It's not the flash of light. Right. It's the moment-by-moment choices. It's having a trigger and making a different reaction to it, choosing a different reaction. Elohim teaches that we create our reality by our choices of how we react to our experiences. And,
beautiful.
And sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes it feels like there wasn't a choice. But every time there's something occurs, the way you react to it is a choice, even if it feels like an instantaneous choice because it's so habitual. There's still a choice there, and you can slow down that habitual response and feel more like you're making a specific choice rather than a habitual choice. And that's what a lot of the council's teachings is tools to help you slow down the habitual response and make a conscious choice for how you want to react in a situation rather than having the experience of reacting in the same way you've reacted for 40 years that hasn't brought you the life you want.
Beautiful. And part of that is, I think for all of us, we do okay with that. But when we really get to a core, tender issue and all of our buttons get pushed and all of our lights go off on our control panel and we get into overwhelm, we kind of forget that real fast. And at times, I think, all of us do that. But the good news is I think we're doing it less frequently, and the control panel goes off with less magnitude. The lights aren't quite as bright as they used to be. And I think some of the tools that you have in your book facilitate that. Like one of them that I really like, there's a number of them, but when you point your finger at something else or someone else. And maybe just elaborate on that, if you would, for our listeners.
Yeah, there's that sense that when you're pointing fingers at somebody else, that it's really illuminating in you the aspect of them that bugs you. right? You're saying, I don't like that you're judgmental. That's a great one, right? I don't like that you're judgmental.
Yeah.
So I'm going to judge you about your judgment and point my finger at you about your judgment. So a lot of times when you're pointing a finger at somebody else, there's that old saying that 3 fingers are pointing back at you. Yeah. But what's really, I think, energetically more interesting is the idea that when you're pointing your finger at somebody else, you're really saying, the thing I'm upset with you about reminds me of something I'm upset with myself about.
Yes.
And the thing that I'm upset with myself about, I can't stand to have you remind me of. I can't stand for you to remind me of this thing that I don't like about myself.
Right.
So when you get your judgment finger out, and that's a real easy thing to do. We're trained to judge. We're trained to evaluate our circumstances using the survival instinct, evaluate our circumstances to stay alive, to stay functioning, to see if there's threats. And when you look out into the world and you see something that upsets you and it reminds you of something you don't like about yourself, well, that's one of the biggest threats of all, isn't it?
For sure. Absolutely. And then that kind of, in a way, but it's a little different twist. And you also have another tool, and it's like, what's in your lap?
Mhm. Yeah. The what's in your lap tool is great because so frequently, especially when you're psychic or empathic or sensitive or just paying attention, it's really easy to see things in the world that disturb you or feel things in the world that disturb you. And Elohim's constantly saying the only place you can make effective change is in the moment and with yourself. So they'll say, how about we focus on what's in your lap? So someone might come to a Q&A and say, I want to know, why Mars is orange or something like that. And Elohim will say, how does that affect what's in your lap? And it goes really nicely with this tool called shaking shoulders, which is reaching over what's in your lap to shake the shoulders of another and tell them how they should live.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not going to pay attention to the thing that's right here in front of me that's driving me crazy that I can't figure out a solution to, but I'm going to tell another person how to run their life.
There you go.
Yeah. So what is in your lap is so good because, it ties in with another tool called None of Your Business. Like, it's none of your business where your emanation goes. It's what your business is, moment by moment, conscious choice by conscious choice, and attending to what arises in you,
Yeah.
rather than discharging it. And Elohim's been teaching us lately that, the light worker abides in the discomfort of the trigger to learn what it's there to teach them, rather than discharging it in anger or, shaking shoulders or being out of the moment, being in the past or the future. You abide in the discomfort of the moment so that you can transform it, and then you don't have to keep living there in that pain.
And that's where the real pearls are, is those triggers that we've had and all those life experiences that, we've tended to run away from. So, yeah. And, Veronica, there's a question in our Awakening Zone chat, and you may have seen it, but let me just read it to you because I think probably it's something that a lot of our listeners would like to know. And that is, if you would, explain who the Elohim and the Council that you channel, if it's like, the Pleiadians or Ascended Masters or, or
sure,
any other.
I'd be happy to. Yeah. So Elohim, it always surprises me. I'm still, 10 years later, it still shocks me to say this, but Elohim is the group of beings that were tasked by the Creator with generating our solar system, not the universe, our solar system, in order to allow souls a place to come, live in density, live in duality, live in amnesia of their true greatness as souls, their connection to the Creator, and experience free will. So they were given the job of creating this place for us to have this experience of walking in density and duality and amnesia, and then through a series of lifetimes coming to the realization of ascension, which is bringing the soul's energy into the physical form while still experiencing density and duality, and what we call embodying your soul's perspective. So having the wisdom of your soul and then the wisdom that each of us have created around knowing how physical forms work, knowing how it is to be on earth, knowing how it is to be in free will. And that was their offering. And so I channeled Elohim and the Council, or Elohim, from 2002 to 2009. And in 2009, we started bringing in more members of the council. And the way Elohim described it was, look, it's like when you go from high school to college. When you're in high school, you have a history teacher who also teaches, gym and stuff like that. And then when you go to college, there's a guy who for the last 45 years, all he's taught is European history. And he's a real expert. So they said what happened was as the ensouling process progressed, there needed to be more experts. So we ended up bringing, over the course of a year, it's actually 56 meetings, we brought in 6 more different entities that I channel now. So I channel 7 different entities, typically every Wednesday night. I channel all 7. They're all completely different. They have a completely different way of being in my body, a completely different message, a completely different perspective on the whole thing. And they are different experts on different subjects because literally the group that we formed and the community around the material said, energetically, we want more. Also, because Elohim reflects part of my soul group, for me to do my personal ensoulment, my relationship to Elohim needed to change. And it needed to go from being like the teacher to being more like in it together kind of feeling. So Elohim became more in it together with Veronica, still teaching, of course, but a different kind of way of connecting with me. And then the other 6 council members came in a more of a teaching capacity. Beautiful,
beautiful.
And they're all different, and they're goofy and serious and wild, and they all are so different. It's just like grabbing 6 of your friends, and going, none of them are the same. It's amazing to me how different they can be. And then, they'll all chime in with their different perspectives on the same topic in a meeting. It's beautiful. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Well, and you have an upcoming, your inaugural retreat that's a 3-day retreat that you're going to be doing in August, like August 31st, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of those, there'll be people who attend will be able to experience.
Oh, yeah. We've got 4 channeling sessions that are going to happen over the 3 days, plus other activities. We've got all kinds of stuff planned. And I will definitely channel Elohim and the council, and we'll do a Q&A so people can ask their questions in person. So it's going to be extraordinary. It's Friday night, all day Saturday, and a good chunk of Sunday here in Sonoma, California at the Westerbeck Ranch. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful retreat facility, and we have cabins for people to stay on site, or you can stay in a hotel in town and pay less to come to the retreat. And I do have space open, and I would love to have your listeners join us. It's going to be extraordinary. And the council has been gearing up for it. So about 3-4 months ago, they took the material that we've been studying to a completely different level, and they really challenged the people who come on Wednesday nights and said, look, at the retreat, we need to have a certain energetic. We want you guys to hold a certain energetic. This is the stuff that we need to clear out before the retreat comes. So they've been gearing up already for it and talking about creating a very powerful energetic for us all to experience. And, one of the things that sometimes people maybe don't know is that a lot of people feel a powerful energy while I'm channeling when they're at home, even when they're listening to the recording. But in person, I get so many reports from people, and Elohim does hands-on healing work and energy work on the people in the room, and all kinds of stuff goes on when you're in person. So I really recommend people come. It's a beautiful time of year to be in Sonoma. It's really extraordinary. The retreat center is just gorgeous, and you can get information about that on my website, Elohim.com. ELOHEIM.com. There's a whole big thing about it there, and I'm excited about it.
Well,
the first one.
Yeah, bravo, and what a lovely setting you've picked. So how spectacular.
Well, and what we did is this. In September, it'll be my 10 years channeling Elohim. It'll be our 10-year anniversary. And, it's the end of 2012, so I thought, what a better time. We can celebrate our 10-year anniversary. It's the end of 2012, so we can be together, right toward the end of 2012, and whatever energy is available to us, we can work with it together and create community in that way. And we have a private Facebook group set up, so everybody who's signed up for the retreat can be on the Facebook group together or email each other, and they're all getting to know each other ahead of time. So it's not like you're going to walk into a room of strangers, because people are really making an effort to get to know each other ahead of time, so we all come together in this really cohesive way.
Well, like I just have your thing in front of me, and the ranch is favorite for retreats. lush garden paths amid native oak lead to shared cabins. Gourmet meals are specially prepared and served in the beautiful California mission-style dining room, outdoor patio, poolside.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So good
on
you.
There's a pool, there's a spa. And, I went to a retreat there like 6 years ago, and the food is fabulous. That's one of the main reasons I picked that place. I'm like, you know what? One, it's close to my house. I'm not going to lie. That was part of it. But two, the food is incredible. I mean, just incredible. So I'm like, let's go there and eat good for 3 days. That sounds good. Because the meals are included.
Ourselves and treat ourselves well, yes.
Yeah, and it's just what I'm thinking I need to do is go walk around and take a video and put it up on YouTube of like, look how beautiful this place is. Because it really is extraordinary.
You actually might do that. Sonoma, people haven't been to Sonoma area. They just don't appreciate the magnificence of that whole area.
Well, and people might not know that Sonoma is about 45 minutes north of San Francisco in the wine country. So we're surrounded by vineyards, and at that time of year they'll be turning, so all my grapevines are like little trees. The leaves turn with the seasons. So it's like the hillsides will be orange and yellow and red and turning with the seasons. It's extraordinary. I'm telling you, I've lived here for a long time. It's an extraordinary time of year to be in Sonoma.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, bravo. And then I just also wanted to mention to our listeners that I had an interesting experience, and you have a new book, and it's Discovering You. And I have an iPad, but I was able to actually get the software and download the Kindle version of your book, and that was my first experience in doing Kindle, but it was nice in getting your Discovering You, and actually a part of that whole book is about emanating, and that is such a pertinent, powerful. Would you maybe give us the Reader's Digest version of it? Yeah.
I'd be happy to. This is classic Elohim example. Classic. If you're not familiar with Elohim, this is a classic Elohim example of something. Elohim told us, look, you're walking down the street and you see a dude wearing a red hat. And you look at that red hat and you say, wow, I think I'd look good in a red hat. I think I want myself a red hat. I wonder where the red hat store is. Now, that guy wasn't shaking your shoulders. He wasn't demanding anything of you. He wasn't telling you to wear a red hat. He was walking down the street emanating red hat as an option to the world. And you went, I like his emanation. I want to match his emanation. All right? So as we walk around in the world in a high vibrational way, being as conscious as we can, choosing, our reactions to our creations, we're doing the same thing. We're emanating out a different way to be in the world without telling anybody else how to live their life. We're emanating by our simple choices of how we're doing. Simply by breathing, you emanate. And the question, of course, is, do you want to emanate victimhood, which is what most people emanate, fear-based stuff, or do you want to emanate consciousness-based stuff? And the trick becomes to not think you have to preach it, but to just live it. Because sometimes it's easier to preach it than it is to live it, frankly. We have lots of examples of that in the world.
You bet.
So when you live it, you are making a difference in the world, and you may never know it. No one may ever come up to you and say, hallelujah, you did it, you showed me the way. But step by step, emanation by emanation, you are making a difference in the world because you're not choosing fear and victimhood as your way of being.
Beautiful. And actually, just to kind of read a quote that I really kind of struck me, I'll just take the liberty of doing that.
Please.
There's a huge difference between giving and emanating. Emanating is knowing what your truth is and letting that shine out of you. Giving is trying to figure out what other people want and trying to figure out a way to offer it to them. All you're required to offer to the world is your truth experienced, not looking around in other people's energy to see what it is they want and then trying to give it to them. That is so powerful and so beautiful.
Thank you, because that's interesting, because when when I picked a quote out of that book to put on Facebook, that's the exact quote I picked as well. I felt it so powerful. The Discovering You book is very, very special to me. What happened was a friend of mine who doesn't come to the meetings but is a light worker came for a private session. And because she wasn't familiar with Elohim's work, they had to explain things in a different way than they would to someone who is familiar with the work. And she came with the question that so many people, especially women, have, which is, I'm exhausted from trying to do too much. I don't know why I'm on the planet. I don't feel like I'm getting, my thing done, whatever it should be. I've gained weight. I don't want to do anything. I lay around watching literally Little House on the Prairie episodes was what she was doing because she just couldn't bear it anymore. So she came to the private session, and Elohim switched into a completely different gear. And they went through 12 different tools, 12 in 50 minutes, 12 tools for her, answered a bunch of her questions, read her energy field, gave her all this advice, and the transformation from the beginning of the session to the end of the session of this woman, absolutely incredible. And while the session was going on, I thought, I've done hundreds and hundreds of private sessions. I've never thought to make one into a book before, but I knew that this package of information stood on its own so powerfully that I wanted to make it into a book. Beautiful. So I did. It's called Discovering You. The Kindle edition's $1.49 on Amazon because it's a little on the short side because it's just a private session, but it's, 100 pages or something like that all told. And if you've never been in the Elohim material before, if you've been in the Elohim material, if you feel like you can't get a grip on your life, it's such a perfect introductory book. And like I said, it's $1.49. You don't need a Kindle. Like David was explaining earlier, you can get the software for your phone or your iPad or whatever else you got. And I'm really, really pleased with this book, and it's brand new. It's only been out a couple weeks.
Yeah, it was easy peasy, and I really I enjoyed it, so thank you. It was really a brilliant insight, making it available that way, and also, you're just exploring new frontiers and sharing your truths. So that's
and it's also paperback. I've made it in paperback, too. It's $6.95 for the paperback. So if you don't want to deal with the Kindle thing, you can get the paperback. It's now available. I just finished that the other day, so that's a new thing for me, too. I don't even have a copy of it in paperback yet, but you can buy one.
There you go. Sure. Well, Veronica, should we go ahead and bring in Elohim?
Oh, yeah, it's that time already, isn't it? Oh, time flies when I'm with you, David. I enjoy it so much.
Well, you're so awesome. Thank you.
All right, so I will just take a couple seconds to be quiet, and we'll bring Elohim in, and I'm sure they're going to have a great time. They love being on the radio. So shall I just do that now?
Breath? Yeah.
Okay, good.
We'll take a deep breath and allow that transition.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, we're with you. Hi. How are you?
I'm good, and I think our listeners are great, too.
Wonderful. Now, where are you on this physical planet right now?
I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Colorado, okay.
Fort Cosmos.
Excellent. We just like to know where you are. It helps us connect with your energy a little bit more if we have a sense of where you are on the planet. So, Veronica tells us that we have people listening from all over the place. That's very exciting. We don't know how many, but we're happy to have all of you, and we are very pleased to take this time with you to answer any questions you have. So feel free to do whatever it is you do.
Well, and thank you for that. And there's a question in the chat room that I also, and I'll do that. Then I have some other questions. And can you tell us about the 3 days of darkness and about the 70 degrees C hitting the planet?
We don't know anything about this. No one's told Veronica, and when Veronica doesn't know, sometimes we don't know. Because we're looking at the energetics that we're currently experiencing, you see. So if she hasn't engaged with that energetic, sometimes we don't know anything about it either. So if someone could tell more, we might be able to give you more information. But 3 days of darkness sounds kind of creepy. What's going on? Do you know about this, David?
Well, a little bit. And I think some of that is misinformation and also, a lot of different prophecies. And, of course, a lot of people have made prophecies for eons of time, and some of them are right. But, frankly, most of the prophecy that have been made really are no longer valid because we've changed consciousness.
Yeah.
And there was, I think some talk, years ago that with, pole shifting that would go through this null and would have 3 days of darkness. And for me, that, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And I think actually we are going through a pole shift. Mm-hmm. And the magnetic grid is changing. And if you're an airline pilot or you fly, that is continuing to change. But I think the major pole shift is happening within us, and that's a pole shift from our heart to our brain.
And that's what we were going to say. A lot of times when people ask us about sort of disaster scenarios, right, we'll do a teaching around this idea without addressing that specific scenario. When people ask us about disaster scenarios, Veronica lives in California, so earthquakes, and then, of course, there's tsunamis and all kinds of things that are going on in your world. One of the things we always say is each and every single person we've ever met has had their own earthquake, their own tsunami, their own version of disaster. Whether it's losing your job or your house getting repossessed or breaking up with someone you love or your child being ill, everyone has had some version of disaster. So the internal experience of disaster is not unfamiliar to you guys. And if you're finding yourself drawn to think about disasters externalized, what we would see in that is let's really look at victimhood. Let's really look at the idea that if something comes at you or comes toward you, that you might not feel empowered to handle it. You might not feel like you have choices or you can make creation in that space. So whether it's, you spill the orange juice on the kitchen floor or, your house burns down, you still have choices in how you react to it. And we know, trust us, we know the intensity of the physical experience. And you can say, oh, but Elohim, you can't compare spilling the orange juice and having your house burn down because one is so much more intense than the other. Yeah, but if you don't practice when you spill the orange juice, reacting consciously and having a reaction to that experience that doesn't involve victimhood, then if something larger occurs, you're going to have no skills to fall back on. You're going to have nothing to work with. So whether or not 3 days of darkness or the other part of the question or tsunamis or hurricanes or earthquakes or tidal waves or whatever comes, you want to start in each moment building your skill set, exercising that muscle of having conscious reactions to those creations rather than victimhood reactions to those creations, because they're all your creations, period, anyway. They're your creations. We have this new tool that we've been teaching called This Is My First Choice, or This Is My Plan All Along. And when something happens, saying, that was my plan all along, acknowledging your creatorship in it. And not in, that was my plan all along, I suck, I'm so stupid, I'm a victim of my stupid planning because I suck. Saying, it was my plan all along for the orange juice to fall. And now that I'm in my plan, I can say, well, I've been meaning them off the floor anyway. Rather than, oh, the orange juice fell and now it's sticky and what am I going to do? Right? It changes your interaction with the fact. The fact the orange juice fell down. Right? There's a fact there. And you want to have the interaction with that fact be conscious rather than victimhood. And if you can just say to yourself, well, this is my plan all along. I can't understand why I made this plan, but apparently I did because I'm in it. So if I react to it from this was my plan all along rather than from I suck, I'm a victim, you have a better chance of having a positive, constructive growth experience rather than repeating patterns that you've repeated over and over again for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years that haven't given you the life you want.
Very good. And let me ask you this. And I'm just wondering if any members of the council, especially with their names or Elohim, has ever had a lifetime on Earth or might even have plans for coming down and taking on human biology.
Right now, none of us are planning to come and take on human biology. There has been some experience in the council. Each group that Veronica works with is really a collective of energy. So there are versions or aspects of the council that have had human form, not really recently, though. Not really recently. And none of us are planning to take on human form at this time. We feel like the best way we can serve the transforming energies is to continue to hold the perspective of you are not a victim, and we're going to be consistent in reminding you of that. Besides, we have Veronica down there doing it for us. So, right, she's the one who goes out there and does all the human stuff and collects all the experiences and lets us see how they play out with her and her friends and her experiences, and then we can factor them into our teachings. And the group, of course, that comes every Wednesday night with us, we use their experiences as well. So we don't need to be in physical form at this time. We're doing just what we need to do.
Well, and maybe with that said, what is your connection, and why did you guys pick Veronica?
Yeah, well, Veronica's part of our soul group, you might want to call it. She's part of what we call the Elohim. She's not always one to say that, but it's true. And she has been part of this plan for a very, very long time. So when she decided to incarnate at this time, it was sort of like, she's always like, oh, you mean I'm the one who, like, held up my hand and you guys all backed up? Or how did I get picked, right? But she's the one who decided to take on the physical form. As part of our soul collective, she took on the physical form in order for us to facilitate this teaching.
Well, very good, and thanks.
She's not comfortable with us talking about that because she makes it. She doesn't like the way it sounds, but it's true. So we're all about truth, and there's some truth for you.
Well, that's why we waited and asked this question while she was in channel. So. And we'll take a caller, area code 727. You have a question for Veronica. And before I bring you in, anyone else that has a question for Veronica, call 714-583-6955 and then press the number 1 button. So now we'll go to area code 727. 727. You're on with Veronica. Do you have a question?
Hi. I just wanted to know if you had any specific messages for me in regards to the changes I've been going through in the past month.
And your first name is?
Carla.
Carla, and where are you located on the planet these days?
Florida.
You're in Florida. What part of Florida?
St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg, Florida, and your name is Carla, and you've been going through something for the month. Let's just see if we can tune into your energy real quick and see what the story is with you. It feels to us like you've been facing something. You know, you've kind of stood up to something. You've stood up to something, and you're at that point, and it's such a powerful point. It's so challenging to face something, and you're like, have I made the right choices? Am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? Is this the right direction for me, right? Is this the road I should be driving down? Because I've been driving down other roads, and I've made a change, and you're at that point of maybe second-guessing yourself a little bit about the change you've made, about the choices you've made recently. And sometimes we see this as you're hanging on, you're climbing a cliff face, and you're hanging on by your fingernails or your toenails and your fingernails at the same time. And what we see in you is that there's a real strong sense that you have like this inner, we don't know what the right word is, this inner ferociousness, this inner fire, this inner fierceness that says, I want my life to be different than it's been, and I'm not 100% sure how to get that life, but I want it, I want it, I want it. And what we would say to you is to be really cautious because, and this applies to almost everybody, but specifically for you, step by step. Whenever you make big changes in your life, there's a real temptation to wait a long time to make a change until you get fed up and then you act in a way that feels kind of brash or too fast. Or you act and then you get into this point we felt with you where it's like, oh, God, I hope I did the right thing. So what you want to do is step by step. And we always say if you're unsure about the path you're on, you're taking too big of a step. So a small step can be, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I tired? Right? Those are the small steps that are important. When you feel overwhelmed, go back to those small steps that are about the body. And then as you're in those small steps, you're being so conscious in your path that it allows more insight to come in, because that's really what we feel for you is true, is that you're really ready to receive more and more and more insight, and you're clearing out a lot of habitual patterns in your life, and you need to drop the habitual thinking. Let go of what we call the hamster wheel mind, and when you find the hamster wheel mind kicking up in you, you can say, okay, have I thought this thought before? Answer is yes. Do I have any new insight about this thought right now? No. Therefore, I will not allow this thought to be thought at this time. I just won't. And the temptation is I have to think it because I don't know what else to think. But the truth of the matter is if you stop thinking it, it makes room for insight That's the trick here, is stop thinking the habitual thoughts to make room for insight to come in. So we have this new tool we call the musing shelf. What it means to is that as you have a habitual thought and you don't get any new insight about it, you put it on the shelf. And it's like a trinket. You put up on a shelf and you look at it. And every once in a while you notice it and you go, any new thoughts about you? No? Okay. Until there's new thoughts, I'm not going to keep thinking the old thoughts over and over again. And we think that'll really help you because part of what we perceive you're doing is as you've grown in this way, the temptation is going to be to go back to the habitual thoughts that your old way of living kept you company in your old way of living. And that's not going to be constructive because you want a new way of living, and in order to be in that new way of living, there has to be insight. You know, that aha you get in the shower, that's what we mean by insight. It comes from your soul, and it's something that you haven't thought before about your experience you're having. And that's what we want for you, is to have those continuous stream of new thoughts, and to get them, you have to set the old thoughts aside. You know, we like to say if thinking could have solved it, it would have solved it long ago because you sure have thought about it enough. That's a good one for you, right? Every time those obsessive thoughts come back in, you can say, this has never changed my life. I know I've thought this thought 100,000 times and it's never made a difference. And I believe that it would make me feel safe to think this thought again, only because what it does is it occupies what I'm currently in. And that busyness feels safe because empty feels scary. But you have to abide in that empty, scary place because it's not really scary. It's different, and you want different. But when different shows up, a lot of times people go, I'm going to scurry back to my familiar suffering. And that's where we want to really empower you to not scurry back to familiar suffering, but to hold in that place that's discomfort, not suffering, but discomfort, and say, I will see this with new eyes. Or I'll see it with neutral eyes because I refuse to see it with old eyes. I absolutely refuse, and that's where your fierceness can really help you. I refuse to think that thought again. I flat out refuse to think that thought again. I won't do it. I just won't do it. That you be strong with yourself, and you will make this change that you want.
Wow.
Okay, Carla?
That was great. Thank you so much.
And Carla, thank you for calling in. And also just remember to, when your buttons do get pushed and issues come up, to do conscious breathing.
Oh yeah.
And when issues come up and we get on that gerbil wheel, that's usually the first thing that we forget to do is consciously breathe. But when you notice yourself not consciously breathing and those issues, that's just really a subtle message to yourself to really come back to the now moment and breathe. Yeah. So thank you for calling. We really appreciate it. And have a lovely evening. And we'll go to our next caller. And our next caller is area code 570. 570. Are you there and have a question for Veronica?
Yeah, I am. I had one for myself, but my son asked me to ask for him, so I've got to do that.
No, you don't. Do not be in service mentality. If you called, you can ask your question. If he wants to call, he can call next.
That's what I told him, but he got mad at me.
Well, if he got mad at you, then that's what obviously we need to talk about, isn't it? How old is this kid?
47.
47-year-old son's getting mad at you because he didn't pick up the phone first? No. You are not in service mentality to anybody. Not anybody. Not anybody.
Yeah, it really bothered me.
Well, we can feel it. So what's your question?
Okay. When my granddaughter, his daughter, was born, she's now 21, my birthday is February 7th. Hers is February 11th. The day she was born, I said, those two numbers together are going to be really, really lucky. They're going to bring you a lot of luck. She was just born that day, and that girl wins everything she tries. She wins contests mostly for country music concerts. She's won all the trips, but I didn't get any luck out of it at all. But I did feel myself push that energy of luck to her when she was born.
Well, you obviously have a real strong connection to being of service to your children and your family.
Yeah,
and it's about time. If your son's 47, we're putting you in your 60s. Is that right?
65. He's 46.
65? Yeah. About time you learned that you can come first.
I know.
It's about time you learn that you can come first. And we have a book. It's called Choice for Consciousness, Volume 2, the orange one. That's the one you want. It's all about this. And you might also get Discovering You while you're at it, because it's going to help you as well, because we only have a few moments here with you, and we don't want to just leave you with, don't do that, because that's not the way we roll. But the truth of the matter is, right as you approached us, the way you approached us immediately was, I had a question, but my son wants me to ask his, and he's mad at me that I don't want to. That right there, those three sentences, that defines your current spiritual perspective. That's who you are right there. We don't need to know anything else about what's going on with you, because that tells us everything that you want to work on. Your question to us was really energetically, help me, I'm drowning in service mentality. That's what you asked us energetically.
I want some of that look I feel I gave my granddaughter, you know. I'm not coming up with it, you know. I love that she's winning everything. I'm so thrilled for her. But where's my half of it? I don't know how to get it now.
Well, why do you get half of what? Why do you? It's not she's getting it and I'm not. It's yay, my granddaughter's getting it, and what is my truth? You know, that's one of our tools. What is true now? The truth you're telling us is, I have a successful granddaughter, I have a son who wants to tell me what to do, and I don't know how to live in this dynamic that I'm in. That's what you're telling us. So let's focus on you first. Let's focus on what's true for you. And what's true for you is that you have a family, that you see her being successful, and you have him telling you this, what he's been telling you, right? And now you're in an opportunity to say, but what is my truth? And your truth isn't in comparison to your daughter, your truth is, or granddaughter. Your truth is in comparison to you. What is true for me right now? I'm upset that my son wanted me to ask his question instead of mine. That's your truth right now.
Was pushing me to do it and wouldn't talk to me because I told him I wasn't going to.
Well, that is something really, really, really important for you to look at, is that right there is the real issue. And the fact that your granddaughter has successes is something to celebrate, not something to wonder when you're going to get yours.
I'm always telling her how wonderful. Yeah. I'm so happy. In fact, I told her this opportunity was available, and she took it up and got it.
Yay! So look at that. You're helpful to her without being in service mentality. You know, the difference between helping and serving is here's our tool that you'll like. It's about the candle and the wax tool. If you imagine a candle that's lit, it can light lots of other candles, right?
Right.
But if you take that same candle and you start cutting the wax off the bottom, it's only going to burn for a short period of time before it goes out, before it can't light any other candles. You imagine you're the candle, right? And you're emanating your light into the world, and occasionally you light other candles like you do for your granddaughter. But if you start giving away your wax, you're going to be tired. You're probably going to feel exhausted and not feel like you feel healthy, feel drained, whatever words you like to put on it. But when your son asks you to give your time up to his question instead of yours, not ask mine after you ask mine, Mom, but do mine instead, that's asking you to give away your wax. And if you do, then you're going to be the one who gets drained. Rather than being able to light your flame, emanate, like Veronica was talking about earlier, emanate yourself into the world and be there to light the candle of your granddaughter when she needs your support, and even your son when he needs your support. You can't give away your wax, and the way you stop giving away your wax is when, we're just using this example. We're not beating up on your son. He did what he does in your relationship that you have, but the truth of the matter is he asked you to do something, you said no, and he got mad at you. Well, if you go with he got mad at me, you give away your wax. If you stand in your truth and say, I can see that you're upset, but this is how I handled this situation because it's my truth, then you build your wax in your candle.
Yeah, I see that. I did tell him, I said, come to the thing yourself. And
yes, and also, caller, in a way, he's really serving you by pushing your buttons, and so it's uncomfortable, so you have a chance to really look at that issue and to transmute it and go to a whole next level. So let me suggest, really conscious breathing and get Veronica's books, but you have a great gift in disguise there, that really you do have the capability and the tools to transmute and to really go to a whole new level of awareness and consciousness if you so choose. So we thank you for calling, and be sure and visit with us again at another time.
Oh, I will. I'm here all the time.
Okay, and thank you, caller.
I'm your own, but
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
My question.
Bye for now. And before I go to our next caller on area code 240, I just want to take a brief commercial break. And actually, I just want to invite all of us who are here and either at this time listening or in the future to check out the Awakening Zone store. And so just go to the top of any Awakening Zone page, click on the store, and you'll find really a wonderful product such as Tuning In Again Volume 1, and that has Lee Carroll, Jeffrey Hoppe, Steve Rother, Jim Self, and also there's Tuning Again Volume 2 with Dee Wallace, Pepper Lewis, Dr. Meg Blackburn-Losey, Christine Day, and Johnette Crowley, along with Awakening Zone hats, ringtones, and more. And actually coming very, very soon, we're going to have some music with Robert Coxon and Anders Holte and many more. And I just had the great experience of seeing Anders and his wife, Kachina, down in Sedona in June. They were there for a Crimson Circle Living Ascension workshop, and Anders is awesome, and of course I also enjoy the work of Robert Coxon, who normally plays at the Cryon events. So remember, all your purchases from the store help to keep the Awakening Zone on the air and free of charge for both our live and archive listeners. So with that said, let me go to caller 240. Caller 240, you're on the air with...
Hello.
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have a question, please?
Yes. I know Elohim. I'm not sure if I should be asking the question or if I should I want to get something extracted. I think I feel like I had a bit of a insight today about money and mantras. It seems that I can keep money flowing when I'm doing these mantras, and there have been so many gaps before where I would, experience lack, create lack, and complain about it instead of sticking to these mantras. And I just, after doing mantras for a few days, writing, journaling, I noticed that the flow is back, and I'm just asking myself today, why am I not doing what works when money is so important? Why am I not doing this? Am I on target here?
When you find yourself encountering situations like this, it's a really interesting exploration of human psychology, right? So you have this pattern that works, you see it working, and then you find yourself not doing it.
And we like to say, that I do it.
What?
It works on the same day that I do it often.
Yeah. Okay, so we like to say dance with the one that brought you. And what tends to happen is that you guys have some kind of a conundrum. You do some spiritual consciousness work around the conundrum. You end up having a transformation. And then in that place of transformation, you want to stay in that transformed space, so you go back to the thought patterns that are familiar to you, which brings you familiar suffering, rather than stick with the challenging part, which is, in this case, the example is doing these mantras, right? The challenging part, the new part, the uncomfortable part. And we see this happen a lot where people will say, it worked for me to do X, Y, Z, or to use your tools or to do this. And then once I got where I wanted to go, I stopped doing them because they had worked. But what do you replace them with? You replace them with the thoughts that bogged you down in the first place. That's why we say dance with the one that brought you. Stick with the thing that got you into transformation, not go back to the 20 years of habitual thinking that kept you from transformation. So you're just building new healthy habits. You're building new healthy habits to replace the old ones, and you're really using different neural pathways in your brain. So it does take a little bit to train your brain a new way, just like when you want to learn an instrument. You don't learn it on the first try for 99.999% of the people. You didn't learn to walk the first time you tried either. So you've got to give yourself a chance to learn new patterns, new behaviors, just like when you're learning a new instrument, etc. People give up because they think, this isn't working, or it only worked once and maybe it's not going to work again, and they don't give it a chance to actually settle in as a new healthy pattern. And that's something that's really important.
This may be the first time that I've asked you a question that has already been answered by myself earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
It's nice when that happens, huh? It's just confirmation that you're on the right, that you're listening to your insight. See, that's you hearing your insight and then us just ratifying that you heard insight.
That is very, very satisfying. Yeah.
Well, enjoy. Enjoy.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And thank you, caller. And we have an email question.
Oh, wow. You just multitasking there, David. You got emails and phone calls and chatty people, and boy, howdy, you're just on it. All right, give us the email question.
Yeah, and luckily I gave my cat some catnip, so she's taking a nap right now. Otherwise, she'd be up here, too. And the question is, how can we really start becoming aware of new potentials, since so often they are so new that we cannot recognize them?
Yeah.
However, with your vantage point of view, maybe you can give us ideas on what to look for in our lives. We know that new potentials are here, but we still don't grasp them fully. So
yeah, this is a perfect question, because you know what really happens is, we say infinite possibilities, infinite probabilities. You have to open to new possibilities. And one of the ways you do that, there's lots of ways to do that, and most of our tools actually help with this exact question. So anything that we've written or done online, any of the videos that we do, we have 300 of them on YouTube you can watch. Any of that stuff is going to help you, because this is really one of our main subjects. First, you got to let go of preconceived notions. That's one of the main things you have to let go of. I think it should be this way, and if new stuff doesn't come to me from this exact path, it's not new, and I'll ignore it or let it slide past me. You have to manage your response, the survival instinct's response, right? The survival instinct saying, stay small, don't change, don't grow. The same small thoughts that have kept us suffering and familiar suffering have kept us from dying. So the survival instinct is resistant to you being on the spiritual journey, and it takes your spiritual fortitude to say, I hear you, survival instinct. It's like when you get up to make a speech, right? And your stomach does that flippy-floppy thing. And if you let your stomach have the say, you're going to stay in the sidelines. But if you say, nope, stomach, I hear you, but I'm going to make this speech anyway, get up and make the speech, you have a new experience. So part of being able to see new potentials is being willing to say, survival instinct, you're not in charge. So you let go of preconceived notions. You tell the survival instinct it's not in charge, which, of course, is a big subject. We've covered it at length, so there's material to support you in that. And you ask yourself, what is true now? It's a constant exploration of walking through the world going, what is true now? What is true now? What is true now? And start with basic things. I'm wearing brown shoes. My hair is green. Whatever you want to start with. The sun is out. I hear a bird chirping. And as you start to get really familiar with what is true now within your life, starting with small things and building up to more maybe powerful things, what you're letting yourself do is become actually consciously aware of things that you've let be unconscious, which, of course, are potentials as well. Becoming consciously aware of potentials is the same path as being consciously aware of your environment in a more profound way. And we have a tool for this. It's called Look Out the Window tool. So what we advise people to do is to look out a window or, pick a vista of some fashion. But we say look out the window because that's the name of the tool. So you look out the window every day at about the same time. And you demand of yourself that what you see be different than the day before. So whether it's you notice, another leaf on the ground, you notice a shadow being different, you notice the light being more bright, it doesn't matter what you notice. You demand of yourself to notice something else, because that teaches you to look with new eyes. And that's really what the question is how do I look with new eyes when I don't know what's actually possible? And what's actually possible is only limited by what you've already put into the situation. And most of the time, it's not about finding new things. It's about removing the habitual stuff. It's like if you have a computer and the hard drive is full, you can't put new stuff in there, and whatever you try to do goes slowly. So what we try to do is help you guys clear out your internal hard drive, get rid of baggage, get rid of static, get rid of habits, and allow that, and get rid of that hamster wheel mind, and allow new thoughts, new experience, and in the light of this question, new perceptions, new options, new possibilities to become alive in you. So really it's a clearing out process rather than a I have to go find it process. clearing out and becoming more aware of what's actually here, because it's all already here. You just have stuff between you and it that you need to clear away.
Beautiful.
Isn't that nice? Isn't it nice that you don't have to go to like Zimbabwe to get it? It's not like we said it's at the bottom of the ocean or the top of Mount Everest, or you have to go read this book or do this class. It's all right inside you already, and we're just clearing away things, step by step, like we said earlier, clearing away, changing your reactions to habit, changing your habitual reactions is what we meant, changing your reactions to triggers, changing the way you perceive the world by getting rid of the ways you've always done it so that you can have a new experience.
And that new experience also includes, even going beyond sight, but also into feelings and what resonates with us and what, thrills us and those ahas that we have, maybe, just in drinking our coffee in the morning or having a walk, in nature.
Yeah, we like the word fascination for all that. We say, is it going to be fear or fascination?
I like fascination.
Because you can be fascinated by anything, right? Anything can fascinate you. It really can.
Very good. And unfortunately, it's 6:00.
It is time for Veronica to come back, isn't it?
And it is time for Veronica to come back. And just to share with our listeners, Veronica needs to leave at this time because she has a Wednesday night channeling that she does with her group every Wednesday night, and she also does one with her group on Sundays. And while she's coming back, let me just remind our listeners that Cosmic Particles with Dr. Meg Blackburn-Losey is on this evening at 8:30 Central Daylight Time. And then Conversations at the Cutting Edge is on Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Daylight Time with Sandy Sedgbeer. And then also on Thursday, the Clear Vibration at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time with Joe Rombolo. So, come back to the Awakening Zone often and be sure and tell your friends. And Veronica, are you back?
I'm back.
And you're awesome, girl. And
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we had questions we just didn't have time to answer. So I know our listeners would love to have you come back at a later date, and just to keep sharing your insights and your truths and your wisdom, and also your creations. Because again, as each one of us, I think, creates something that we share. That really does help the rest of us and inspire the rest of us to get in touch with those things that thrill us to bring forward. And we all do have special gifts to share with the world. Oh,
well, thank you. I'm always pleased. Sorry, after I channel, I'm not as eloquent as before. I'm always pleased to be with you. I don't think that's right, but I'm always happy to be with you, and it's a real honor and pleasure, and I'm absolutely open to coming back whenever you have an opening. I think Elohim really covered a lot of information. You can see how quickly and how thoroughly they can cover subjects, and that's why we've made so many books, because there's just so much information that they've provided us with. And anybody that wants to come on our webcast tonight, we have a webcast every Wednesday night at 7:30. You can go to register. You know what? I'm going to type it in the chat thing there. That'll be easier than saying it out loud. But for those people later on, Elohim.com, ELOHEIM.com, and we have a shopping area. You can register for that. And if anybody had a question for Elohim they didn't get to ask, on Sunday, the third Sunday of every month, which is this coming Sunday, we have our monthly Q&A that's set aside completely for taking questions from the Internet. We have a whole meeting that we only take questions off the Internet. So you can tune in and ask your question and have Elohim answer it live. You can also learn about that on the website under the monthly Q&A. I'll put it in the chat there, too, so that you guys can easily find it. So hopefully we'll meet again soon.
You're awesome. awesome. So thank you again, my dear, and have a safe trip to your next meeting, and we'll just look forward to it.
Oh, thank you. Many blessings to you all.
And bye for now.
Bye-bye.
And while Veronica goes, let me also just share with our listeners that come back next month for a special show. We're actually going to be doing, having 2 broadcasts next month. We're going to be doing a live taping with Jeff and Linda Hoppe on August 7th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time on their new book, Live Your Divinity, which is channeled by Adamus St. Germain. And so that's August 7th, Tuesday at 11 a.m., and then we'll be broadcasting that show again on our normal New Potentials time at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time Wednesday, or 6 p.m. And so that's Live Your Divinity. And we're doing it Tuesday because they have to take off then, and they're going to a workshop they're putting on August 10th, 11th, and 12th in Breckenridge, and it's the Essence Experience with Jim Self. And, of course, Jim is absolutely awesome, as well as Adamus channeling, or Jeffrey channeling Adamus St. Germain. And if you haven't had the experience of that, let me invite you to go to thecrimsoncircle.com, CRIMSON circle.com, and you can actually watch a video of Jeffrey channeling Adamus, and there's about a 10-year library there. So consider also the Essence Experience in Breckenridge, August 10th, 11th, and 12th. So I want to thank our listeners for joining us. It's absolutely a delight, and your presence, your being here is instrumental in the show. So I thank Veronica and the Elohim, but especially I thank our marvelous listeners for your love and support. So until next month, we'll see you then. Have a lovely day. And bye for now.
You have been listening to an Awakening Zone presentation. Human Empowerment Radio and Media for the 21st Century and Beyond.